What's going on? Dr. Gonzo Boogie here again. In this video I wanted to show what I think are some of my best 80s horror movies that I have in my collection. Pretty much my favorite 80s horror movies that are in my DVD collection. I have more 80s horror movies in my DVD collection, but these are just the ones that I think are the best and the ones that I would definitely recommend to anyone who likes horror movies. To start off with is The Shining, with Jack Nicholson and directed by Stanley Kubrick. This is just a great, if you haven't seen this yet, check it out. I mean, it's based off a Stephen King story, directed by Stanley Kubrick and starring Jack Nicholson. I mean, I don't really think I need to say more than that. Just three great minds all in one movie, and I think it came out great. And here's one of my personal favorite 80s horror movies, and just one of my personal favorite movies, An American Werewolf in London. I just love everything about this movie, not just that it has really good effects and a good werewolf transformation scene, but I just really enjoy this movie. The characters in it, David and his friend, I could relate to them. It reminds me of me and my friends. And every time I watch the movie, it kind of reminds me of what I think would realistically go down if everything that happened in this movie happened. John Landis directed it in a realistic way, which I always appreciated. That he spent a lot of time, and this was always his dream movie. And finally, after the success of Blues Brothers, he was able to finally make it, and I think it shows. It's a masterpiece in my opinion. Definitely John Landis's masterpiece. I really recommend this movie, and if you haven't seen this movie or if you like werewolf movies, definitely a good example of a werewolf movie. Yep. And then here is my favorite John Carpenter movie, and another great movie that come out in the 80s, another great horror movie, kind of sci-fi too, but I consider it more, just kind of like a horror sci-fi movie, kind of like Alien, but this is really good, like a really, really good movie, one of my favorites. I have the insert for this, and this is great. The story is great in this, and the cast is great. Kurt Russell does a great job. Kind of looks like a late Jim Morrison in this movie, which is cool. But again, great movie. And to start off now is my 80s Cronenberg movies, which I think every movie Cronenberg made in the 80s was great. This is Scanners, of course, which has the famous head exploding scene, which is used in a lot of stuff. But I've seen it a lot on on internet clips and all that crap. But this is a great movie. And then we have my favorite Cronenberg movie, which is Videodrome, which this is another one of my favorite horror movies ever. I just love every single thing about this movie. It stars James Woods and Debbie Harry, which if you're a friend of mine, I'm a huge fan of Debbie Harry and Blondie, and so that's just another plus for me on this movie. But I got into this movie before I even was a big Blondie fan, so I just am a huge fan of everything about this movie. It's the type of movie I want to make. It's just beautiful, real and a real mindfuck type movie, but it's great. And then another Stephen King adaptation, The Dead Zone, which is by Cronenberg. I really like this movie, and I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did when I saw it, and it really became one of my more favorite horror movies very fast after I bought this DVD because it was just really good. Everything about it. Christopher Walken again, he does a great job in this, and David Cronenberg does a great job. And if you never read this book, like Christopher Walken's character gets in a car accident and he wakes up with the ability to like see into people's futures by shaking their hands or touching them, which is cliche now. Well, back then, not a lot of stories were like that, and one of the main points in the story is he shakes the hand of a politician, and he sees him about to destroy the world or something like that. And so he actually tries to assassinate or kill this politician, and nobody believes him because, of course, nobody believes crazy people. We want to believe them in our world, and they don't believe him in this movie world. And so he's trying to kill this politician, and it's just intense, a very intense movie. And I was not expecting it to even be how it was because I never read the book, and just great. One of my favorite horror movies now, and this came out in '83. And then here's the classic Cronenberg The Fly, which I love this movie. It's pretty much equal in my mind to the Vincent Price Fly because I love that movie too, but I also am a big fan of this movie. It's kind of a gross out film, but once you get past that layer of it, it's a really good adaptation of a classic sci-fi story. Cronenberg again goes realistic with the way the story plays out and everything looks. And this is another one of my favorites. One of my favorite Jeff Goldblum roles too. I think he does this really good, and I would recommend this to anybody. Great movie. And then here is Friday the 13th Part 3, which I talked about this in my slasher films, and a great example of an 80s slasher film. Probably one of the best examples of just a really good 80s horror movie with the basic formula that all of them followed around this point. And then Evil Dead 1, which is a great 80s movie, and Evil Dead 2, which another great 80s movie. And then George A. Romero's Day of the Dead, which I really love this movie too. I'm not sure if this is my favorite in the series. It's either because all three of his first ones, Night, Dawn, and Day, are so good in so many different ways. It's just hard to really pick which one that I like better. But this is the one that he put out in the 80s, which the effects in this one are the best out of his first three. So it's really good. And The Return of the Living Dead, which is kind of another side series in the Night of the Living Dead series, because in a way there's a lot of different series that bridged off of that. There's the Romero one, and then the Italian zombie one, and then the Return of the Living Dead series. So Night of the Living Dead, definitely one of the most popular horror movies ever, with all the things that it just bridged off of it. But this is the Return of the Living Dead, which is a great 80s horror movie. Loads of fun in this movie. It's got like some punks in it, some other shit like that. Just some fun 80s stuff. When the zombies in this movie are crazy, it's like they're almost impossible to kill. And it just makes the movie even crazier. And it's one of the first zombie movies like that. Because before this, most of the movies followed what Romero was doing. And this movie definitely does take a new approach, even though it still you can tell it's inspired by the Romero zombie films too. And I think that both of those came out in the same year, Day of the Dead and Return of the Living Dead. Let me just check that. I don't know, the date for Day of the Dead isn't on here, but I think they both came out in 85, which is cool too. And then Halloween 4, which I talked about this in my Anchor Bay review and my slasher film review, so I'm not going to go into it too much. But really cool 80s horror movie. Not the best in the Halloween series, but I think my favorite that came out in the 80s, even though Halloween 2 is really good too. And then here too, A Nightmare on Elm Street, which I have the like Warner Brothers case type thing with the snap on it edition of this movie. And I went into this one in my slasher video, in my slasher horror movie video. So if you want to see a little better review of that from me, you can probably see it in there. And then here we have Creepshow and Creepshow 2, which these, I love both of these movies. I like the horror anthology, and these ones are done really well. And the Tales from the Darkseid series also bridged off of this show, which that's one of my that's my favorite horror anthology show. Like, I like Tales from the Darkseid more than Tales from the Crypt and Twilight Zone and all the classics too. I think Tales from the Darkseid is the most fun in my opinion. And and that came out in the 80s too, which I have that, and I'll grab that real quick. Right here I have the whole Tales from the Darkseid series on DVD too, which this is a 80s TV series. And I remember I wasn't around in the 80s, so I wasn't into it back then, but I was into the show before it actually came out on DVD. So I remember when they came out on DVD, I was real excited and bought them all like immediately. And then this is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which again great 80s horror movie, and a really good sequel to a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Kind of goofy, not as serious, and way different than the first one, but still good. And then Poltergeist, which I'm sure pretty much everybody has seen, so I don't really want to go too much into this movie, but this is really good, really well done, and it's got some real scary scenes in it, and Steven Spielberg and always puts a lot of work into some of the stuff he does, and Tobe Hooper is great. He did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series, which is just awesome. So one of the first two Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. So he's one of the like icons of the horror movie directors, and that's one of his like more high budget movies. And then Hellraiser, a really good 80s horror movie. A lot of crazy stuff in this. Clive Barker is a crazy author, artist, and director, and this is a good movie though. Definitely has a lot of artistic value to it too, other than being a good horror movie. And then the Reanimator, or no, I meant just Reanimator, not the Reanimator. But this is great. One of my favorite movies to come out during the 80s. I just love everything about this. It's a fun movie. It's scary. It's over the top, and it's serious. It's realistic, but it's not realistic. Just all around fun movie. And again, a big inspiration on me as wanting to be a horror movie director. This is just a good example of a horror movie. And then this is its sequel, which came out in '89, I think. The Bride of Reanimator is good too. It's a little more goofy and over the top than the first one. Kind of reminds me of like a Full Moon straight to video type movie, and this is really good. Always have a lot of fun when I'm watching this movie. And this is sort of a sequel to the first Reanimator, and not really. This is From Beyond, which is made by the same director and has pretty much the same cast in it. But and it was made right after Reanimator, and it's based on an H.P. Lovecraft story, just like Reanimator, but it's not like a sequel to Reanimator because it has nothing to do with Reanimator. But if you love Reanimator, you'll probably love this movie too. And then the classic Child's Play, which is directed by Tom Holland, and this is a great 80s horror movie, and I've always liked this one since I was younger, even though the doll used to scare the crap out of me when I was a little kid. And then this is Fright Night, which is another good 80s movie directed by Tom Holland, and I would suggest this one too. Not the remake, which I've never seen, but I'm guessing isn't as good as this one. But this one, Fright Night. I just bought this movie this Halloween, so I haven't been a fan of this movie for long. But I feel like I've been missing out on a good one because this is a really good 80s horror movie. And that is my pretty much the ones that I think are the best in my collection. So thanks for watching.